Welcome to African Innovation Landscape, the program that journeys across the continent to spotlight breakthroughs in research and development, the strides in science and technology, and the ideas shaping industries and communities. Whether you're talking renewable energy, health discoveries, digital transformation, education, and sustainable agriculture, we bring you stories of innovators, scientists, and visionaries building Africa's future today. We will be sitting with one of the brilliant minds shaping Africa, a celebrated engineer, academic, and institution leader, Engineer Professor Azikiwe Onwualu. He is a renowned Nigerian engineer, scholar, and innovation leader. He earned his bachelor's in engineering, an MSc from the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, and a PhD from the Technical University of Nova Scotia in Canada, now known as Dalhousie University. After becoming a professor at UNN in 1999, he served in several national leadership roles, including Director at NASEMI and Director General of the Raw Materials Research and Development Council. Today, he serves as President and Vice Chancellor of the African University of Science and Technology in Abuja, AUST, leading critical research initiatives like the Pan-African Materials Institute, PAMI, and helping shape Africa's next generation of scientists, engineers, and innovators. We are so glad to have him on the program today to unpack the role of research universities in transforming Africa's innovation capacity and to share lessons from his journey. Let's go have this conversation with him. Join me. Professor Peter Azikiwe, it's so good to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So let's kickstart. From your vantage point, how would you describe the current innovation ecosystem in Africa?
Yes, I believe the ecosystem is really moving. It's still at its infancy, but what interests me more is the vibrancy, how enthusiastic people are, those people who are in the space. I don't think there is any other country. If you start from Nigeria, there is no country where you have the tech ecosystem as vibrant as what we have in Nigeria, and of course, by extension, a number of other African countries. The reason being that the need for tech ecosystem, need for innovation is more in Africa than in any other environment. So in Nigeria in particular is running with this. And you will see every nook and cranny of this country, you will see tech startups coming up. You will see innovation ecosystem. The ecosystem is really very vibrant because people are interested in using technology in improving whatever they are doing, improving productivity of their livelihood, whether they are in transport or they are in agriculture or they are in medical, whatever you are, you see opportunities for using technology to improve services. And of course, you know that Africa's population is dominated by the youth. Young people are more in Africa, more in Nigeria, and so it's an ecosystem that is evolving, and I believe that all that is needed is the ecosystem environment that can support these young talents so that they can discover themselves and do whatever they need to do with technology to improve themselves.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's talk about AUST, where you are the Vice Chancellor and the President. Yeah. Research institutes like this is expected to bridge the knowledge and practice gap. I'm very curious, and I'm sure our viewers are also. How is the AUST doing that?
Yes, as you may be aware, the university started as a research university in 2007. The emphasis on research is to the extent that it started actually as a postgraduate university, that is offering only masters and PhDs. And so it's actually built on a research foundation, and that is why in terms of facilities, the laboratories were designed from day one as facilities to support high-level research. And over the years, beyond those physical facilities, The university also has a good network of international partner institutions, which gave the university a head start in terms of resources, two areas of resources. One is the professors. Most of our professors at the time came from Africans in diaspora. These were accomplished professors in their own rights, wherever they were, and they were coming here to teach for a few months and then return to their base. So that's one good network we had. The other good network we have is that these professors, because they are in developed economies, our students had unrestricted access to their laboratories. When we were doing only PhD and masters, you would see that most of the students would do part of their work here and then go abroad to finish up. And so we had the best of everything in terms of these professors that are outside the country, then their facilities, and of course the world-class facilities we have here, thanks to World Bank and Africa Development Bank. We have one of the best labs you can think of, especially in the area of science and engineering. But over the years, as you know, as you move on in life, you have to, from time to time, evaluate yourself or get evaluated by people. Even before our external evaluators started talking to us, ourselves, we found that the university had excelled excellently, very well in the area of doing research, publishing papers. You'll be amazed at the kind of papers. In fact, for you to get a PhD in this university, you must give us at least 2 papers from any Scopus Index journal, which you won't find. This condition you won't find in any university in Nigeria. And so think of it that every student gives us at least 2 papers from his thesis. Of course, not just because of those 2 papers. Most of them actually publish 3, 4, 5, 6 before they graduate. Now, what that means is that the scientific output here is quite high. We had not done well in the area of innovation. What do I mean by that? I mean that beyond doing research, coming up with publications, we need to go to the next level, which is transforming some of these research results into innovative goods and services. That is where we did not do very well. And so in the last couple of years, we have added the component of innovation into what we are doing. And the first thing we did was to retrain ourselves as staff, as professors and so on. We had to retrain ourselves to now bring in the component of innovation into what we are doing, so that we now talk about research and innovation, not just research, but what do we do to make research to move from research results to innovation, and of course, ultimately as commercialized products coming out from the university. And one window that we saw, and we had to work with it, is the window of establishing a university-based innovation hub.
Okay.
So 3 years ago, we started what we call AUST Inspire, which is a university-based innovation hub on campus. And before then, we, as I said, we had to retrain ourselves. We went to workshops. We visited a number of innovation hubs, tech hubs all over the country, throughout Africa, and in fact, even in some developed economies, to be sure that we understand how these things work. And I'm glad to say that that innovation hub, AUST Inspire, is now thriving. The idea is that every student of this university, while you are going through your academic studies, you will also go through what we call a skill-up program, where you learn skills in whatever field you are interested in. And then we even encourage them to form their own tech startups while they are on campus. And this has been working, because if you go to that hub, you notice that students are now getting to, first of all, they learn the soft skills, then they learn business incubation. This summer, For example, we are running a business incubation program. And so some of them, instead of being on vacation, they are back to campus, going through these innovation, learning, all kinds of things they need to learn to be tech enthusiasts. We've also realized that the professional side of things we are lacking in our university education. And so because of that, we've also brought in a number of professional bodies such as Cisco. Today, this university is one of the Cisco academies approved by Cisco. We have Who Are We are discussing with AppTech. So a number of these professional bodies are here on campus. And what that means is that while you are taking your degree, you're also gaining from learning about professional things, so that we hope by doing that, our students get everything. For example, if you look at the content creation industry today in Nigeria, everybody is rushing into it. Many of the people you see in the field currently are not trained, but this is what we are giving to our students now. So even as a student, you learn the professional side of creating content, editing content, handling content, and then some of the courses you will see in those short courses that we do include cyber security, because whether we like it or not, one of the challenges we have with digital technologies is the risk of cyber issues, cyber attacks, and so on. So we are also training students on that. And then more importantly, we are now emphasizing that as you are doing research aiming at publication, you should also be aiming at patents.
Okay.
Of course, patent is level 1 in the process of commercialization to get an innovation that can give you products. In the last 1 year, for example, we've been able to register about 8 patents. In fact, today I woke up to a very interesting news that 2 of our patents was just last week approved by the Federal Ministry of Commerce, Industry, and Federal Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Commerce, where you have the patent office. So it is something that we have retooled ourselves, so that while we are publishing, we are also registering patents, copyrights, so that these things can now move to the next level, so that they can become innovations that can find themselves in the market. And I challenge my students that before you leave here, if you're on a 4-year, 5-year program, you must leave here with a product. Whether that product is a software, whether it's an app, or a physical product that you've been able to produce and you are able to sell and make money, thereby contributing to the growth of the national ecosystem, where people are able to produce things, tech-driven products that will challenge what is already available in the market.
Okay, thank you very much. I like how, through your leadership, you've been able to foster things moving from the lab to the mainstream market, because I think that has really been one of the bottlenecks when we talk about research and science. Okay, but moving on, let's talk about in your role as a leader, especially with your vast leadership experience, what would you say has been your experience in fostering collaboration among the African scientists and institutions?
Yeah, collaboration is not easy. You know, when you look at the ecosystem of innovation, there are different levels of collaboration. Theoretically, we talk about the triple helix, where government, industry, academia are supposed to collaborate. The concept of triple helix is that if these 3 groups can work together, you will have seamless turning out of innovations coming without any sweat, in such a way that research coming out from the university is immediately picked up by industry, and industry is producing with it, and then industry gets support in terms of policy from government or in terms of incentives. And then also government also supports institutions and so on. So it should be seamless. But we know that in Nigeria, this collaboration has not happened the way it should happen. Now, one of the things we've done here is to learn and implement good collaboration policies. There are 2 or 3 levels. The first level is collaboration between institutions.
Yeah.
That is one university collaborating with another. And if you go deep and see what is going on in this university, you see that all our publications, you will hardly see any publication coming out from this university that is only a professor from this university. There is always another professor from what we call IPI, our international partner institutions. And we have over 20 of them. Some are in Brazil, some are in the US, in France, in Japan. Intentionally, we've cultivated these partnerships. Some of them are actually visiting professors to this university. Now, what that then means is that if I'm supervising a postgraduate student, a PhD student, I also have another professor from Japan or from the US as a co-supervisor. And then we have what we call postgraduate supervision committee. In that committee, you have people from different parts of the world in a small committee supervising these postgraduate students. So the student gets the best of everything. What I cannot give, somebody in France will be able to give. If it turns out that there is a lab experiment that needs to be done and we don't have the facility here, we send the sample to one of those international partner institutions. So we've trained ourselves to be able to, and it's not easy to be able to collaborate between 2 professors in 2 different universities with different cultures, with different things. But we've perfected this in such a way that all our outputs are joint outputs. That has also helped us with getting grants. You will know that grants such as the European Union grants, you have to partner with a university in Europe. And so you also need to. And as you know, in most cases, when you just write to these professors in Europe, they hardly respond. But we've been able to work on this to the point where we now have good collaborators, so that when we need to do joint calls, when we need to respond to calls jointly, we always have these partner universities. That does not say we don't have partners within Nigeria. We have over 30 partner universities within Nigeria. We work with almost all the big universities in Nigeria because we have our people there and we work with them to do joint projects. Now, that is on the side of academia collaboration. But the more difficult one is academia industry collaboration, where you need to, and that is actually the thing that drives innovation, where a university is able to collaborate with industry. Again, we have worked on this, and we established, when I started as Vice Chancellor 3 years ago, I established what is called University Industry Advisory Board. What that means is that we invited some key industries as members of this advisory board, and we hold quarterly meetings. Of course, with the tech environment now, we do those meetings online. And what it means is bringing these industry, captains of industry and our professors together on the same table, and they discuss anything from research to curriculum to projects. And so with that, we are able to get inputs from industry into our curriculum and vice versa. And of course, that also helps with so many other things, such as placing students on industrial attachment and so on. And also having projects in such a way that when we are applying for a grant now, you will see that our professors are there, professors from other universities are there, and then these industry partners are also there as collaborators, which means whatever research you are doing, there are 1 or 2 industries that are interested in the potential output from that research. So it's not a situation where you finish and you are looking for the end user. A good example is a project we have now on barytes. Barytes is a mineral that is used in the oil industry. That project is funded and sponsored by Total. Total is an oil company that needs vendors that supply barrels to them. They want barrels from Nigeria to be of high quality. And that high quality means it needs some research to be able to get to the concentration they need. And I can tell you we've produced about 3 PhDs on this project. And the results of their research, some of them are already patented, some are already being used by industry. So it's not a matter of you finish research on your own and you begin to look for industry to look for the results. So this kind of collaboration is really key for driving innovation. And in our short courses, continuing professional development program, we have over 50 consultants from industry that work with us to train people on emerging technologies on a regular basis. Again, this is a very good partnership that we've established over the years. And of course, we partner with a number of government agencies. So partnership is important, collaboration is important, but you have to drive it, you have to learn from, because every institution has its own culture and the way they do things. The way we function as a university is not the way an industry functions. Even the way we function as a private university is not the way a public university functions. But you need to understand yourselves, and now you are able to collaborate and do things for maximum benefits.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. I like that you've been able to highlight how collaboration has played a very key role, and of course, with support from funders. But I'd like you to also speak about, are there structural or policy bottlenecks that's affected or is currently affecting research and development in the African continent?
Yes, there are. As you know, for you to really do research that can lead to serious impact, you need funding. Now, this funding is not there in most universities in Africa. And so we need to go out, and compete with every other person in the world. Then you now look at it, I'm going to compete with somebody in Germany. That person in Germany has everything around him in terms of infrastructure, in terms of electricity, which I don't have. So it's really an unfair competition. So you find that there are some of the policies that affect us as Africans. Some of the policies, I believe that number one is the issue of infrastructure. How are the people over there able to have good infrastructure? Because the policies in their environment makes it such that as a vice chancellor of a university, you are not worried about electricity, you are not worried about water, infrastructure, no. All you need to do is to pay when the bill comes. But here, even when you are ready to pay the bill, the electricity is not there, the water is not there. So you leave the research and innovation work you'll be doing, worrying about how to make sure that your students have enough electricity. And then you look at even the internet that drives everything we do. In my office here, I have how many? I have the university Wi-Fi that is supposed to provide for everybody, but I also have my phone, and I also have another one in my office. The same thing in all the offices. Because maybe you are in the middle of a Zoom meeting, the big Wi-Fi fails, then you switch to the router. After some time, router may fail, you switch to phone. So these are things that are taken for granted abroad. And I believe that these things are not working well in Nigeria because of failure of policy. Okay. So policy is important. The other side of it is that for you to do meaningful research, and I'll give you one example. If you go to our lab, we call it ADB lab, African Development Bank Lab. We call it African Development Bank Lab because African Development Bank at some point gave this university a grant of over $10 million. And that part of that grant was used to build that lab. And that's where our PhDs do their research and our professors. Now, Why are they able to do that? Because Africa Development Bank had a policy to support institutions that are creating good ecosystem for researchers from all over Africa to study in one environment. Now, you look at our individual countries. Let me take my dear country, Nigeria, as an example. We have a policy that gave rise to TET Fund, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. But that policy, well, I'm not sure those who crafted the policy knew exactly what they were doing. The policy says it is for intervention in public universities.
Yeah.
And so, as a private university, I cannot access grants or support from those from that government policy. Otherwise, I have to belong to a public university. And then I ask the question, the students who are within this university, are they not Nigerians? So are they not Africans? So again, that is one area of policy. And I tell you, I'm even leading a program. I'm co-principal investigator in a project to change this policy. If you look at Nigeria, for example, we have the National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy. The last chapter, and if I can find it on my shelf, I can show you. The last chapter of that policy makes provision for what we call a National Research and Innovation Fund, which will deal with innovation and research fund for everybody, whether you are private or public. Unfortunately, that policy has not been implemented, but I must thank the president of Nigeria. A few months ago, he made a pronouncement that he was going to implement that policy. In fact, the president has established I think he has inaugurated a committee under the vice president, an interministerial committee, and made a pronouncement that he was going to have a national research fund, which will be available to everybody within the Nigerian innovation ecosystem. Now, when such a policy works, it then means that we'll have something, maybe the equivalent of the National Science Foundation of the US, where anybody, whether you are the roadside person who is doing drones, or you are a professor in a university, whether private or public, doing high-level research, you can actually go there and apply and get money to do research, to do innovation. Even industries can access money there to come up with new products. So that's one of the things I said we should thank the president of Nigeria for making this pronouncement. And I believe that very soon that National Research and Innovation Fund will be in place. And going beyond that, I'm also telling state governors that if you look at the 36 states, it's only Lagos State that has an equivalent of what I just talked about. Lagos State has they call it Lagos State Innovation Council. And you can actually apply to that council to get funds to fund research, to fund innovation. What is happening to the other 35 states and FCT? They should also have that kind of thing. Now, what that does is that it creates that ecosystem where people can actually access grants. Mind you, in fairness to the state government, some of them are actually running with the idea of innovation. I know that some state governments have established special programs for innovation. They are building innovation hubs. They are building ecosystems for innovation. But it should go beyond that to a point where it is not just to train people in innovation, but also we should be able to provide funds, whether those funds will be through banks or through, you can call them a venture capital companies, so that that young person who has learned how to do content creation can actually have access to funds to be able to start his or her own business. Because he needs to buy equipment. These equipment that you are using, they are not cheap. They are very expensive. But you need them to be able to do well in the innovation ecosystem. If you are coming up with an app, for example, I know some people who are now in the agri-tech space or in fintech, young Nigerians doing wonderfully well, coming up with apps. But to develop that app and have it on Google Play Store is a lot of money. And if they're able to do it, it means the whole world can actually be using their app and they're making money. So these things are important, but we also need to make sure that the source of funding for innovators is available. And I must tell you, there are many innovators. I belong to Nigerian Association of Inventors. There are many innovations coming out from our innovation ecosystem. But there is also the proverbial valley of death, that most of these innovations end up in this valley and never see the light of day. And that can only be solved by not just having policy, but having policy and implementing those policies correctly.
It appears as though funding and policy is a very big issue. But I want you to proffer a solution. How do we fix this issue of funding? Is it something that can be fixed internally?
Yes, it can be fixed internally very easily if we put our minds to it. It is like business. We shouldn't see this as social service. This is what I always tell people. We must see this as business. What that means is that before anybody goes into the tech ecosystem, you should have an idea that is bankable. In other words, it should be an idea that when you implement it, you will make money. So that if you want to borrow, you can borrow money, but that thing you are doing will be so that once you start doing it, you are earning money to be able to pay back. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is to remove the concept of a social service. What I mean by that is, oh, you want to train young girls on coding, and you just gather them, thousands of them, you train them. What do they do with the knowledge? And this knowledge, the tech knowledge, is almost like a language. If you learn it and you don't use it, you lose it. So as we are training our youths in becoming tech enthusiasts, whether it's fintech or agri-tech or those looking at waste management or entertainment, which appears to be the most popular now, we can do better than what we are doing now if people in the space have access to funds. I'm not talking about free money. I'm talking about making sure that they can have unfettered access to money in terms of whether they are soft loans or there are companies called venture capital companies. We have a few of them in Nigeria today. Now, government can actually support, have a policy to support venture capital companies. Who are these companies? These are individuals who are interested in supporting startups, not necessarily to give them loan, but if they see that your idea is good and they can fly, they can actually support you, maybe by providing equity capital. In other words, they can partner with you and become part of the business under an agreed framework in such a way that when the business grows, they don't just give you money. That's the good thing about venture capital companies. They give you money, they give you support, logistics support, they give you knowledge support and everything, because they are buying equity into your company or your idea, which means they will not want you to fail because they have a stake.
Yeah, they have a stake.
Now, it is different from giving loan, because they can give you loan, they don't bother. All they want is they will now behave like banks. Whether you are drowned or not, in fact, they will come and carry your corpse and sell your corpse if you are owing them. But if it's equity, they will not only support you with money, they will also support you with knowledge, with support, and even promote you in such a way that you become successful. That's how venture capital companies work. But those venture capital companies need support, which can come, they're usually very rich people, but with government policy and support, they can do more. And I believe that this is an area that we need to, if we do it in such a way that we encourage individuals, companies, even our big industrialists. And some of them are already doing it. Some of them are establishing foundations. And these foundations are now supporting younger people with entrepreneurship concepts, support. A good example is Tony Elumelu Foundation, There are many Tony Elumelus in Nigeria, but how many of them are actually in this space, supporting entrepreneurs with technology, with knowledge, and so on? So as governments in Africa should do more of this to support young people to go into tech in such a way that it won't be too difficult. You know, I come from a part of this country where almost people try by importing things, buying and selling. And they have a network of how they even raise money within themselves. That kind of concept can also be done within 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 the tech ecosystem, such that those who are young and they have knowledge, they've trained themselves, they will be able to find money to be able to, of course, finding money is one thing. Another thing is using the money very well. But if the young person has been properly trained, the training is not only on tech, it's also on how to manage business
money, yeah.
and how to manage your funds when you get them, and how to manage your sales and so on. So I believe that there's a lot that government needs to do. They are already doing a lot. I'm sure you are following what is happening with the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, and also Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology. They've rolled out a number of programs, and some state governments have also rolled out a number of programs in the innovation ecosystem. But we need to do more to make sure that we can unleash the power of our youth in the innovation space. That is one area. Another area that we have not even scratched is the area of being part of what is going on, whether it's IoT or digital systems. Have you ever thought about what is the content? We talk about content creation, but what is the content of these technologies that are local? All these devices we are using, all these softwares we are using, how many of them are manufactured in Nigeria? And what is difficult in manufacturing this? I bet you all the young people we have in Nigeria, they can show you how to make a mobile phone.
Yeah.
But because of other logistics, other constraints, they are not able to begin the manufacture of mobile phones. So we should also spend some more time also looking at these hardwares that we are using, even the softwares. Look at the accounting. People in accounting will tell you there are over 10 softwares in accounting. People in the medical field, there are softwares driving all those machines you see in big hospitals, in educational institutions. People are developing this. How did Zoom start? What is our contribution to Zoom or Google Meet or so on? And I know there are Nigerians that are capable, or Africans that are capable of creating these ecosystems. They first of all tell you it's free. You know, that's how Zoom started. Yeah, first 40 minutes is free. So because it's free, you get hooked to it, and then you now find that your meeting lasts beyond 40 minutes, so you now have to buy the subscription. That's how it works. Everything we use, whether it's plagiarism software, whatever software, now there are softwares for writing books in minutes. So the question I'm asking is, how can we as Nigerians get involved in creating those technologies, not just using them? That is the next phase in what we are doing. While we are learning how to use these technologies to do business, we should also be learning how to produce these businesses. And here in our hub, I must tell you, we have, that's part of what we are doing. In fact, one of our technologies that we created here won the National Engineering Innovation Award 2 months ago. And that is about 3D printing. The first 3D printer we used here in our lab, 2 of them, were given to us from the US. Now we make 3D printers in our workshop, in our lab here. And one of the technology or the innovation that won that Engineering Innovation Award, given by Nigeria Academy of Engineering, it's the filament that you use for the printing. Anywhere you go in this country, these filaments are imported. But the young innovators here have been able to find how to recycle this PET bottle and use it to make filaments for 3D printers. And that won a national innovation. Academy of Engineering gave them 10 million. If we have things like this, I talked about supporting innovators. This is a grant, 10 million, just for coming up with this idea. So they move to the next level. And my dream is that one day that product will be in the market. So this, if you now do this, multiply it 1,000 times in different institutions, different industries, wouldn't Nigeria and Africa overtake the world?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Prof, you speak with so much passion for young people. You're very interested in the growth and the young people better in the fields of STEM education and even innovation. I know you have ideas, but what can we really do to bridge that gap? Because there's really a gap between getting the skill and those skills being utilized properly. So how can we bridge that gap?
Yeah, what I see that is a problem is opportunity.
Okay.
As the head of this university, I do get, thousands of applications, and most of these applications are from people who actually studied STEM. And of course, I can't employ everybody that is approaching me. So I also make effort to talk to others, and I see it's the same problem everywhere. So on the one hand, we are talking about promoting STEM. We want people to study science, study engineering, study mathematics, study all this. But they come out and there's no work for them. Now, what does that do to this person that has even studied that STEM? He or she begins to look for how to survive. And so you see some of them doing other things like Uber, boat driving. Some end up as artisans, some end up as teachers, and so on. So I think the first thing that needs to be done is to look at our employment market. I think there is something we are missing as a country, and that is creating an environment where people can find work. The way the world works is that not everybody will be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So there has to be a basic minimum that once you study any of these STEM areas, as you are graduating, there is job. I told you I studied in Canada. And I remember during our convocation, almost every undergraduate, I graduated with PhD, but there were undergraduates. There were car companies, car dealers, who were approaching these graduates. Once they see that you are wearing your academic gown, they are offering you that you can drive out of this arena with a brand new car. And I asked them, what if this guy doesn't get it? They said, no, almost all of them already have jobs. How are they able to do it? It was not by accident. Now, you look at a city like Abuja. How many industries are in Abuja? You can count them. But we shouldn't be able to count the number of industries that are in a city like Abuja. That's why we have an industrial hub like the Do Industrial Layout. There should be more of that. And these kinds of things should be created by government in such a way that in every city in Nigeria, you have industries. We had that before when we had the regional governments. Some of them were some of these industries were in agriculture. Because when I talk about industry, it doesn't mean manufacturing. It can be model farms. It can be anything where you can produce goods and services. Now, take an example with Ogun State. Between Ogun State and Lagos State, you have an industrial hub where you have thousands of industries. Now, if every state has that, what that means is that all the encouragement we are giving people in STEM, people study. You cannot believe that people who study microbiology or studied any of the STEM areas, engineering, they are looking for work. Now, if we create an ecosystem such that once you study any of these STEM areas, you immediately find a job. People will excel. These youths will find work. You cannot imagine what they can do. But the situation where somebody studies any of the STEM fields and he or she can't find a job, It even discourages those who are going to study. I remember one of my relations, she studied a course, one of the supposedly high-flying jobs, supposed to have a good job after graduation. She couldn't get a job. And what is she doing now? She's learning content creation. And even as a learner, she's already earning money. So why would I discourage her from doing that? So why we need to create that kind of, because at the end of it, there's something we say in my place that if you are eating together, the important thing is that there are two pieces of meat in this. One belongs to you, one belongs to me. So for these young people, what belongs to them is that they should be able to have higher education and get a job. And then even those who are not able to go to higher education. I had a friend who introduces himself as the average Canadian. He decided I wasn't going to higher education. He went through what they call, I'm trying to remember the name, they call them community colleges. But I think it's equivalent of our technical schools. Okay. After that, he said he was not continuing. I became friendly with him because his wife was my classmate in PhD. So the wife was a lecturer at the time. But he did plumbing, electricals in that community college. And he's running his own company. Being a plumber, being an electrician, and he in fact, he told me sometimes he laughs at the wife because I can pay her salary. Because that handiwork he does pays him 3 times what a professor earns. So why wouldn't people go into that? So, but in our system, you find that these jobs are not there. And then even when you now make the effort and learn these things, STEM, do all these, the jobs are still not there. So number one thing that we need to do as countries in Africa is to find ways of changing our system so that there will be jobs for people. All this noise we are making, trying to stop medical doctors or people in nurses from Japan going abroad, it is unnecessary. Why do I say it's unnecessary? If the jobs are here, why would anybody want to leave? Those who have lived abroad will tell you, at the end of the day, you still want to go back home. So, if it is the medical profession, let there be more opportunities for people. Check any city in Nigeria, we are not even up to 10% of what we need in health facilities. So let's build more health facilities, let's build more industries, let's build places where people will work. And I'm not saying it has to be done by government alone, no. It has to be in collaboration with private sector. In other words, there should be policies to encourage private people to expand the economy in such a way that we can return back to what it used to be. I tell you, as a final year student of engineering in 1982, before I went for youth service, I already had 3 jobs. Those 3 jobs, how did they come? They came to the university to do recruitment. This was just 1982. Federal Civil Service came, other institutions came, and then while we were in camp in youth service, they also came there to recruit people. What has happened? What has happened now is that the number of young people is expanding. We are marrying 2, 3, 4, 5 wives, producing children. So there are more people, which is okay, it's good. We are also expanding the educational facilities, but the industrial environment where these people will work, even government employment is also not stable, but even decreasing. So where do you want all these people to go? And this is what is driving the Japa syndrome. If you are in an environment you can't find, you look for how to live. So, but those of us who are, because not everybody will Japa, not everybody will have the opportunity. The young people who are within the country, we need to find a way to make sure that this doesn't continue. And how do we do it? Create jobs, create environment for people to find jobs. So that all the universities and polytechnics were licensing, training our youths, which is good. but they also have to find where to work. A situation where even at the level of youth service, people are moving all over the place looking for where to serve, and people are rejecting them. It's a terrible signal that something is wrong with the system. So my main advice or suggestion is that we need to look at the end user side. How do we make sure that for STEM, what we are training from people that we are training in STEM are able to find jobs? If they are not able to find jobs, I tell you what happens in the eastern part of the country will eventually happen everywhere, where people will ask you, yes, with all these your degrees, so what? It happens. And then people ask the question, why should I waste my time studying your STEM for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, when I can go and be an apprentice to my master for 4 years, 5 years, and he settles me, and I start importation and become a rich man. So we need to look at this again. We have National Manpower Board, but I'm not sure that Manpower Board is linked to industry. We need to create an environment where there will be more and more industries. I just gave an example with Ogun State and Lagos State. How many states are like that? Of all the 36 states, there are some states that don't have up to 5 industries that you can count as industries. It is real. And yet we have governors who are pretending over our budgets. So those that are in government, National Assembly, that make all the laws and so on, we have to change this scenario to a point where the manufacturing base, production systems, we have to find a way to get these things back online. There is no reason why Abuja should not have over 1,000 industries. Industries should be looking for people, not the other way around. And that's basically our problem. Of course, you can also link this to the deficiency in infrastructure. If we find a way to deal with our infrastructure, deal with our roads, deal with rail, aviation, deal with hospitals, deal with agriculture, food processing, deal with internet, bandwidth availability and all that. How do you deal with all these? There has to be industries to deal with them. So if those industries are there fixing all these problems, naturally jobs will be there for STEM graduates. And then you don't need to now spend time preaching to people to go and study STEM. Because do you preach to anybody to study medicine or study nursing? Today, I think even nursing is even overtaking medicine. You don't preach, because if you're able to get in to study that profession, to study that field, you are sure of your future. So we need to create that from the supply side, the end user side. Find a way, and there are many ways to do that. If you go to Ministry of Commerce and Industry, you know that there was a time we had the industrial cluster concept, where every city in this country, we have an adjoining industrial cluster. And I remember at a point in time, I was the DG of Raw Material Council. We also floated an idea under Vision 2020, what we call raw material processing clusters, where you go to every community or every local government in this country, there must be a natural resource that is there, whether it's mineral or agro. You create using business people around there, create a cluster of industries around there, give them all the infrastructure they need, electricity, all that, and the private people will set up industries, and these industries will then be where all these young people will go when they finish. Because the way we are going, everybody wants to be a content creator. One day, I don't know what will be those who will be watching what we are creating. So I think this is what we need to do: create a thriving industrial base for the economy in such a way that the youths can exert their energy and see where to work, and you don't need to preach to them.
Thank you very much, Prof. Finally, I know you've spoken about us creating that enabling environment for young people. But we've seen what has happened in Nigeria in the past few years, and we still have a lot of young people who have very indigenous, innovative ideas, and there's no way out. Some of them are rural communities. They don't even know what to do with those ideas. So I wanted to speak to those ones because you've just made mention of very soon we might as well just become content creators and there'll be nobody else to watch, and we'll still be battling with the brain drain system where we have our people going out for greener pastures and we cannot really stop them. But there are those who are willing to stay, but there's really nothing to hold on to. So I wanted to speak to those young people on a final note.
Yes, the first thing I will encourage you is, irrespective of what the environment is, ask yourself, where do I fit in? What's my niche? So if you are able to identify that, you go and get a skill. Forget that you have a degree. If you are in a university where skills are emphasized, you would have gotten the skill before you even graduate. But if you have a skill that is good, you will always find something to do. If you are not able to find a job, you can create job by yourself if you have a good skill. So skill is the number one thing I would tell everybody, wherever you are, find a skill. And then learn the arts. Of course, if you are learning a skill, you also learn other things. And one of them is the art of networking, to be able to network. Yes, you are in a village, but you can also, if you build a good network around yourself, you should also be able to find things even beyond your environment. And of course, nobody says you must remain in that environment. If you have good network, you'll be able to find what is going on elsewhere. And in today's world with technology, you can actually operate from anywhere, even if you're in the village. Of course, the network might be very slow, but you can also create things that can look at the world as your ecosystem, not just that your environment or Nigeria. We should be forward looking to the point that whatever you are coming up with should be something that you can scale it up. Today, if you go to any major city in the US, there is no Nigerian food that you can't find there. Okay? And how do the food get there? It is through young people who suddenly found that they can actually start exporting these food products if they can meet with the standards. And they don't have to start big. They don't have to do it shipping containers. Yeah, but these things are things, and then there are simple things that people can do, even in the agriculture that we are talking about. There are very simple things that people do you can do wherever you are. But at the end of the day, have this entrepreneurial mindset. Entrepreneurial mindset means stop complaining, do something, look for something you can do, and start small. Don't begin to think that you can overnight become a billionaire because you are seeing somebody who has built a mansion. And I use myself as an example to young people. When I came back as a young lecturer, I couldn't maintain my car. I still remember one joke. It's not really a joke. When I go to the office, I look for a slopey place to park my car. That time the cars are manual, or we are manual. So I have to park because the battery of the car is dead and I couldn't afford a battery. So I have to park there so that when I finish my lectures, I can just put it in gear, is it gear 1 or what, and then roll it. Then it will start. So I tell them, for some of them who come and tell me, you made it, I say, no, I didn't start. So we also need to know that life itself, you have to work hard and pay your dues. Not everybody will make it in a short time. Some people will make it after a while. Some will make it very quickly and lose it and return back to poverty. But I believe that it is better you grow, and then so that when you become financially stable, you are actually stable, and that your wealth is sustainable. But skill is very important. And in doing that skill, you'll also need to expand your horizon, think wide, but start small. And then above all, always do the right thing. Part of the problem we have with the tech industry now is those who are giving it a bad name, the so-called Yahoo boys. You learn a skill, a tech skill, instead of using it for positive. And I think you were with me, my PRO was with me recently when we went to EFCC radio. And as we were leaving, we saw young men in buses being taken into custody. And I was asking what happened. They said these are Yahoo boys. They are picking up from hotels around Abuja. So they have this skill. Instead of concentrating on the good side of it, that is looking for how to make money with the skill they have, they now want to use it to dupe people or use it for kidnapping and so on and so forth. So I believe that anybody that has a good skill should be able to find something to do. And don't be static. You've learned this skill, so you must remain there. No, you should be watching to see. Even me as a professor, as soon as I heard that AI is with us, I had to train myself about artificial intelligence. And nowadays, when I write a paper and I find a way to put artificial intelligence to blend it, it will get published immediately. So I cannot remain in that my position as professor, oh, I know it, so why should I bother about emerging technology? For you to be competitive, you have to go with the times. Any new technology that is coming, find a way to learn it. And as you are learning it, look for the positive side. How does that enable me to make money? Genuinely, legally. And then you find that the rest will just follow.
Thank you so much, Prof. It's been very insightful sharing with us. Thank you so much. From our conversation with Professor Azikiwe Peter, you can see that we all have a role to play in ensuring that the innovation landscape gets to the amiable heights that we all envision. In collaboration, in policy, in financing, everybody, government, individual, private organizations all have a role to play, and we must come together to ensure that the Africa that we so desire becomes Africa of our dream when we unite. Thank you so much. This is still African Innovation Landscape. My name is Chinatu Oji. Do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms at Idea Television. Until we come your way next time, it's bye for now.